What's up, everybody? Oregon's NCAA investigation surrounding the Willie Lyles brouhaha has finally come to a close. The NCAA handed down their sanctions and punishments this morning, and for all intents and purposes, Oregon got off really light. I won't go into the details. The main bullet points: one scholarship over the next 3 years, and that includes last year's recruiting class that's coming in to be freshmen this year. That was something that Oregon was already doing. They had already self-imposed. They were 2 under their previous scholarship limit already, so that doesn't make a difference. Chip Kelly has an 18-month show cause penalty, meaning if he was going to come back and coach in the next 18 months in college, at any college, they would have to appear before the NCAA and tell them why. That means nothing. Chip Kelly's not going anywhere. He's going to be at the Eagles for at least a couple of years. And there were a number of recruiting limits that were put on the Oregon coaching staff in regards to the number of official visits recruits can make and the subscriptions to recruiting services. Oregon cannot use those for the next 3 years. That's going to make recruiting, I think, more of a pain in the butt, but Oregon and their recruiters already have very good pipelines and already know the guys that they're targeting. These aren't going to affect the classes that are going to come into Oregon over the next 3 years. There are a lot of reasons for this very lenient penalty. I think the NCAA likes cooperation. Oregon was very cooperative, more cooperative than the overwhelming majority of schools that have been facing possible violations throughout this investigation. And I think that says something. To contrast that, we look at USC, who got hit with much harsher than was expected and much harsher than were probably necessary penalties. But their athletic department botched that whole investigation pretty soundly. And I think that says something, that the NCAA doesn't want to get jerked around. They're a very prideful and personal and sensitive organization, and if you treat them as such, they will reward you, I think, is what this Oregon investigation tells us. I think the idea that Willie Lyles was peddling his wares to multiple schools had an effect on it. He was not just a booster for Oregon. There were other schools using his services. Oregon paid by far the most money to Willie Lyles for his access, but schools like LSU and Cal also were paying for some recruiting service to Willie Lyles. And I think the idea that the NCAA likes fair play even when you're cheating, and so the idea that any school could have paid money to Willie Lyles for similar information and similar access, I think that had something to do with it. And this is something that Ted Miller put in his recap, which you can find on ESPN.com. The idea that not only is Chip Kelly no longer with the program, but neither is Pat Kilkenny, who was the athletic director at the time. Rob Mullins has come in and he has done a brilliant job handling these investigations. He was marvelous in his press conference this afternoon, where he could have been arrogant and he could have gloated and he could have, not gloated, but he could have been arrogant and he could have said, this proves that we didn't do anything or we did very little wrong. That's not what he did. He said mistakes were made, we are moving forward, and we are figuring out how to be an elite athletic department. I'm paraphrasing, of course, this is not a direct quote. But the idea that, he's learning from these mistakes, and through this investigation, Oregon has been able to streamline their compliance department, get better people into their program that can do better work and really do the job of an elite athletic department. So that's one of the positives that actually comes out of this, is Oregon's athletic department has gotten much better as this investigation has gone on. So a slap on the wrist for the Ducks shouldn't really affect the football team at all next year or the years to come. So for all the Husky fans and Oregon State fans and anybody else that was hoping that the hammer was going to come down, I'm sorry to disappoint you. But look on the bright side, you could be Aaron Hernandez today. So things are looking up for you. For AddictedToQuack.com, this is Takimoto. Go Ducks.